Okay guys, thank you for finding my channel. I'm going to show you in 10-minute sections how to put this scene together. So let's get stuck in. Okay guys, thank you for coming back. In this tutorial we're going to look at texturing up this wall here with a brick texture and making it look kind of realistic. In order to do that we're going to need two things down here. First thing we're going to need is a seamless brick texture. So you can go to Google, you can download this if we're just practicing, but for the purposes of this educational tutorial we don't need to worry about copyright. It's very important when you search for textures that you obviously include the word texture, don't just search for a brick. More importantly, that you include the word seamless, and I'll show you why. I've downloaded a couple of textures already here. This one's seamless, this one isn't. The idea with a seamless texture is because it's seamless, you can copy it and paste it back to itself in any dimension and you can't really see the joins. It just looks like one solid wall because it's seamless. Where it flows off one end, it flows on the other one. Okay, this one's not perfect, but it's pretty good. If we try it with this one down here, which is definitely not seamless, you'll see straight away, if I zoom in here, it's also watermarked. If I zoom in here, we've got this really obvious line. This is not a seamless texture. We can't really use this texture for very much at all. I'm just going to drag that into the assets folder, and the assets folder really is drag and drop. There it is. Now in order to texture this I could just drag that straight on, but it's not going to give me as much control or as many options as if I create a material first. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go create material. So materials can control all sorts of things depending what sort of shader they've got on them. This one's got a standard shader that we're going to work with today, but you can change that shader into all manner of things: skyboxes, particles, FX, even AR and VR, and we're going to get into some of these in later tutorials, but for now we're going to stick with standard because it's nice and easy and it's what we want. So if I drag this material onto wall, at the moment kind of nothing happens because I haven't done anything with the material, but if over here in the inspector I now change this material, go into the albedo, look at the colour here, and I start dragging the colour around, you can see very quickly what it does to the wall. But a material is more than just colour. A good way to think of material is to think about these two cars here. This one is a black car. This one is also a black car, but they don't look the same. This one's got a kind of a dull matte finish, almost like a sort of a charcoal finish, whereas this one's got really glossy, shiny finish. They're both black, but two very different finishes on them. This is what a material does in a game engine. It controls the color, or in this case the pattern, but it also controls how an object reacts when light hits it. Is it shiny? Is it dull? Is it rough like a wall? Is it reflective like watery surface? All of this is controlled by the shader. The shader also controls the various different texture types that you could drag onto it. Now the standard shader's got a lot of options. Today, I'm just going to put this back the way it was. Today we're only going to work with albedo, which is the main base texture. And if I just drag this seamless brick texture up here into this square, straight away you'll see how the brick has gone onto the wall. Now at the moment I don't really like the shape of that because it's a bit stretched. I'm just going to drag that onto the other wall here, and then I'm going to start making a few changes. What I could do is well, you know, those textures, they're a bit stretched. I don't like the look of those. What I'll do is I'll grab the scale tool, the R, and I'll just shrink them down till they're about the right size. Now they're kind of the right size, but the problem is the wall isn't. I've had to shrink the wall. I don't want a wall that's just a tiny little piece like this. I want the wall back the way it was. So what I could really do with is a way to change the size of the texture on the wall without actually having to change the size of the wall itself, and I can. If I go back into the material here and I go down to the tiling and I just drag along this x-axis here, you see how it's resizing the texture on the wall. The wall's the same size, but it changes the texture. I'm going to eyeball this. I'm going to take it to about 3, I'm going to change it to 3.5 and then type that in, make it exactly 3.5 so I know how big it is. Have a quick look. It works on the other wall because it's exactly the same size. I just duplicated it earlier on. And what I've got is something that's starting to look a little bit like a brick texture. In fact, if I just use the W translate tool, shift that down to there, duplicate it with Command D, bring it out here, then I've got the starts of an alley. Quick look at my main camera. Yep, thought so. My main camera's looking the wrong way. So I'm just going to pull my main camera through into here, and I'm going to turn it through 180 degrees. There we go. So I can see what's in the wall. Is now facing down there, and if I push the play button to do a quick play test, then you can see I've got the start of a basic dead-end brick wall alleyway here. Can't do anything else, can't move around because we haven't got a character controller. Very important, when I've gone into test mode, play mode, in order to get back out of it, you push the same play button. Don't be tempted to push the pause or the jog button. If you're still in play mode, if it's still blue, and you start making changes, so if I go into the scene here and start moving things around, move this wall back to here, when I come out of play mode, it won't save any of my changes. Here, what we're going to do now is we're going to import an existing asset. Here we're going to import something from assets. And we're going to import a package, and we're going to import the characters package like so. So it will prepare the package like this, and then you just need to click import down here. You can expand it here and you can see the various things that are in it. I'm going to go assets, standard assets, characters, first person character, prefabs. So it's assets, standard assets, characters, first person character, prefabs. And then I'm just going to drag the first person controller into the scene like that. That's going to be my character, okay? Very important that they're facing the right direction. The blue arrow is the direction that they're facing in, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that they start life facing down the alleyway. So I'm just going to turn them round like so that they're facing pretty much down the alleyway. And I'm going to lift them up so that their bum isn't sticking through the bottom of the floor like that. Now what you'll notice is I've got two cameras in my scene. So because my FPS controller comes with its own camera right there, I don't need this main camera. So now I've got this in, I'm going to delete the main camera. And then if I click playtest, I can look around using the mouse, and I can use the basic W, A, S and D controls, W to move forwards, S to move backwards, S and D to move left and right. And of course, if I look in those directions, I can hold shift to run, spacebar is jump. I have all the full functionality that you'd expect of a first-person shooter. You'll notice I've lost my cursor. In order to get that back, I hit the escape key on the keyboard in the top left, and then I just come out of playtest mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click back on the assets over here, because I'm going to make an enemy. I'm going to go to 3D object, capsule, here. So there is the capsule. That's going to be my enemy. He's looking directly at me. I can see that's quite handy. But here's the problem. Once the enemy starts turning around, I'm not going to know which way is forwards. So I'm going to create a little face for my enemy. All I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the existing capsule with Command D and pull it out of itself. You can see I've got two there. And then I'm going to shrink it down using the scale tool, R. And actually, I'm going to shrink it mathematically to exactly 0.5 by 0.5 by 0.5. What I can do then is I can just set that back into my character like so. So he's got a little bit of a face. Now here's the problem. At the moment, if this body starts moving off, it's going to leave the face behind. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that the face goes wherever the body goes. In order to do that, I'm going to use something called a parent-child relationship. This, I'm just going to rename this. You can right-click, rename. That's the body, and I'm going to call it body. This is going to be the face. Now I know which one is which. All I do is I drag the face onto the body, and that makes the face the child and the body the parent. So I can still move the face independently of the body, tilted up and down, so on and so forth. But if I move the body, then the face comes with it, and I can see which way is forwards. Okay, let's give this guy a face. Okay, so now I've got a face. I don't want to use any of these faces though. I'm going to use, let's see, what am I going to use? Have I still got that old Crime Watch photo lying around? Ah, yes, there it is. Proof to all of my students that I was once young and I did once have hair. Let's drag that face in and play with that, shall we? This is going to work exactly the same way as the texturing process for the wall. First of all, I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to call that material face. And then I'm going to drag my face up into the albedo of the texture there. So it's got face, and I can get a quick preview down here of what it looks like. And then let's drag that material onto the face of the object there. It's kind of okay, but he's sort of facing sideways. And that's not quite what I'm looking for. So the final thing I can do in the inspector, if I go down to the offset and offset X and rotate that round, I can move it round so the face is facing me. It's facing exactly where I want it to face. And now my scary object, and you know what, I'm going to create another material because, you know, it's clearly going to be the bad guy, and the bad guy's always dressed in black. I'm going to give him a black material, and there we go. There's my villain, all villainous and evil looking. Look, he's got the long hair, he's dressed in black, he's clearly the bad guy. This has been another 10-minute Unity tutorial from Dr. H on behalf of Octo Beard Media. Thank you very much for watching.